Welcome everybody to our BNI Talks webinar. My name is Steve Tenuzo, your host, and today I've got John Waller, and he emailed me a few weeks ago to talk about this topic: are you referable? And that question has been around BNI for a number of years. It goes all the way back to the early days of BNI, because we always want to make sure, are you doing all those things that you need to do in order to actually deserve referrals? And so we're going to be talking all about that today, different aspects of it. But first, let's get to meet John. And John, why don't you talk a little bit about yourself?
Thank you, Steve. Top of the afternoon, yeah. Good afternoon, good morning, everybody out there in BNI Talks land. I am John Waller with the On Hold Experience. Been doing that for a little over 26 years. And I hail now from Albuquerque, New Mexico. I was in BNI for like 2.25 years in the Bay Area in California, where I became a director consultant back in the day, and love BNI. Found a good home here with shout out to BNI Movers and Shakers here in Albuquerque, the finest chapter in New Mexico. And that's about it for me, Steve.
Nice. A little chapter pride there. I like it.
Thank you.
Okay, so John, you have a lot of passion about all the things that people should be doing to really put themselves in the best light, to be referable. And so why don't we jump into this? This was a podcast from a few years back that Ivan did, and he was talking about Mike Macedonia, who's someone I found out that you know,
Yep.
and talking about the qualities of a referable person. And by the way, those of you who are wondering, is referable spelled correctly? I had to look it up because I saw it spelled with 2 R's and with 1 R. And apparently, according to Webster's dictionary, 1 R is the correct way to go, even though it still looks weird to me. I'm just putting it out there. It looks weird. Probably because the word referral has the double R in it. Anyway, that said, let's look at these qualities that Mike talks about. First, it's expertise. All right, so you continue to invest in mastering your trade. I know a lot of you here on this call today do continuing education in your field. You're always learning new things, especially if you're in like the tech field or marketing or finance. All of those things require learning, but even like trades requires education, real estate. You work in a salon, you're probably getting training, right? All of those different things. So that's always an important. John, why don't you talk about the importance of passion for your business?
I think that's really critical of these 3 points here, Steve, is passion. Like it says so eloquently, if you're not excited about who you are and what you do and how you help folks, how is the other people in your chapter going to get excited about having a one-to-one with you and referring you and going out of their way to do that? I mean, you've got to be just totally invested in what you do 24/7, 365, big time. Yeah, it's like that comes across every time Dr. Meisner does a podcast. I mean, he's over 800 of them, like what, 820, and he's so passionate about this, his baby. It comes across every time you see him or you hear him. Yeah, and that's why, if you have the ability when you're driving, either you're going to a one-to-one or you're meeting or whatever, turn your car into your car is a university with wheels. Utilize that. If you can safely drive while listening to a podcast, then that helps you with your chapter education units. Some people, I've heard other people say that CUs are continuing education. Well, in other fields, yeah, but here it's a chapter education unit to make you better in your chapter.
Absolutely. And the last point is understanding the referral process. This is what makes you referable. So it says here, when you receive a referral, you make the person who gives you the referral look great. And here's the thing, we usually see this reversed, right? Usually it's about when you give the referral, right? But in this case, we're talking about being referable. When someone gives you that referral, they're kind of giving away a little bit of their reputation. And so
yes,
it's your job to take that referral, treat it like gold, and make sure that that comes back to you to make you look great, right?
And so you don't, so just piggybacking on that, you don't sit on that puppy. You get on that, as they say in the Marines, most Ricky tick, you get all over that. And because that's going to make you look good and the referring source look great. You call them, as soon as you can. Here in New Mexico, this is the land of mañana. And I tell people all the time, well, I must not be here because I'm from the land of 5 days ago. Man, if somebody gives me a referral, they're hearing from me within 30 to 60 minutes. And it's funny because I did that Wednesday. Danielle gave me to Steve at the meeting. And I got done with a 1-to-1 right after the meeting, and I got on the phone and called them right then. I didn't leave Top Golf to go back to my office before I had called those 2 referrals. I got all over that.
Yeah. And I think, I think what you may do a spectacular job handling a referral, but if you delay, if there's lag time, that is going to take the person who's giving you that referral and say, do I want to continue to refer this person to my best clients and my family members and my friends and all these contacts that are so important to me?
Never going to happen. No,
Yeah, right.
No. You shoot yourself in the referral foot.
Exactly. And Randy says follow-ups are so important. Absolutely. No question about that.
The fortune is in the FU. It's huge. And if you're not using a CRM, I've been using one since October of 2008 that a friend of mine designed. So I've got, it's 15 years in October, and I've got 18,500 people in that CRM. And then the other one I mentioned to you this morning was Close. And I put all my BNI people in there. I constantly use that so that when I send out an email, I know somebody opened it up.
Yeah, that's great. All right, so let's dig into all of these really great points that you brought up.
Thanks.
Let's start with this one. Do you keep your commitments? This is something that can really get people in trouble right off the bat. If you're a brand new member and you are not keeping the commitments that you made, they're going to start thinking, well, I don't know if this is a really great BNI member or not.
Big time. Yeah. If you're a white belt in BNI and you're new to it, you can't, it's like at a dance, you can't be a wallflower waiting for those other 42 members to invite you to a 1-to-1. You got to make it so. You have to make it happen. You got to fill up your calendar and reach out to the people in your chapter to do 1-to-1s. Big time, huge. You got to do maybe, we talk about 1 a week. I believe in 2 or 3 at least a week, because you want to get around all the members in your chapter so they know who you are and what you're all about. And the best way, I think, to confirm your 1-to-1 is send out an email with your gains profile attached. A lot of people don't even have them set up. This is going to create a really good, we talked a moment ago about how you're going to look with visibility. You sending out your gains profile, people are going to be impressed that you already have that done. And yes, and you're right, Lisa, treat it as your best client, and don't just have one-liners under the GAINS subtitles. Have 2 or 3 items in there. If your gains profile looks wimpy, you're not going to look real good when you have that 1-to-1. And the main reason why you put that gains profile out ahead of time, so people understand you, and it's going to possibly trigger who you're looking for, so they can be thinking about referrals for you before that 1-to-1 happens.
Yeah, and by the way, you can access a gains profile by going to bnibusinessbuilder.com and going to the resources section and just searching for gains profile, and you'll be able to find it. By the way, John, why don't you just if we have any new members on here, why don't you talk about what a gains profile is?
Okay, great. Great point, Randy, about commonality. You're right on. The gains profile is the form that gains is an acronym, and gains acronym is: what are your goals? What are your accomplishments? What are your interests? What is your network? And what are your skills? If you put all those items in your gains profile, people are going to know who you are on a deeper level. And 1-to-1, the reason why we have 1-to-1s, because you've got 90 minutes at the meeting, and you all know how jam-packed that is. The 1-to-1s help you to drive that relationship so people understand you, and they can refer you better by knowing you and having spent 30 minutes on each side of the table getting to know you, and vice versa.
Absolutely. All right. So this is,
Especially if you're doing a phone call one-to-one across the country, like I do, or around the world, or a Zoomer, please send that person your gains profile. That's mission critical that they have that when they're in front of you, getting to know you by that. Yeah, go ahead and send that out, email that to them or text it, whether if you're doing a phone or a Zoomer one-to-one, big time.
and by the way, I will give you my own pro tip, which I've mentioned in previous webinars, and that is if you're sending out a gains profile to someone who's a brand new member, they may not have this or know that it exists. So I would
Mhm.
also attach a blank one for them to use, so they
Right.
can fill it out and send it back to you.
Great point. That happened to me yesterday. I met with
Oh,
Tree
great.
guy from another chapter, and
Mm.
he didn't have one, and so he got mine, and so I sent him one by email.
Great.
The template, plus all the other guys, so that he would know how to do that.
Yeah, it makes a difference.
The other thing I see, Steve, that's really great in one-to-ones is if you have any experience, like I saw somebody on here was with BNI for 26 years.
Mhm.
My gosh, turn that into a coaching session, mentor that person, because you just don't know what golden nuggets are gonna like trigger them and help them out a lot.
Yep, absolutely. All right. Next, arriving early for your one-to-one.
Hmm.
All right.
Or
Uh,
arriving.
Yes, yes. So important to get there early because you want to make sure that you're not losing time. If you're meeting in a restaurant or coffee shop, you may have to get menus and order and stuff, and you're just cutting into your hour. Get ready so that at the top of the hour, you are ready to actually have your meeting and get everything done. Plus,
Steve,
it's respectful of people's time.
sorry, somebody put in the chat if we can you attach, is there a way to attach a link to a games in here?
Yeah. You can also go to bnibusinessbuilder.com in the resources section and download it all for yourself. But I will try to remember that
All right, thanks.
and pull it out of the chat later.
But yeah, like Randy's saying, yeah, Vince Lombardi time, if you're not there 15 minutes before the hour, you are late. And
Yep.
this happened to me a few weeks ago. I was sitting in the parking lot ready to get in. And I was there like 14 minutes early, got a text telling me that the person couldn't make it. Well, I'm thinking, my gosh, they should have been en route
Yeah.
at 14 minutes to 3, so
It
yeah,
does happen. And we're going to talk about that in a sec.
yeah.
But you talked about the gains profile. And the bio sheet is, of course, what you hear when a speaker is introduced for their feature presentation.
Right.
John, talk about the top 10 last clients sheet.
Okay, this is a sheet that you can get at BNI Business Builders as well. Top last 10 clients you had lets folks know who you've helped out in the past, and it gives them a trigger to refer people that they know that are like these last 10 clients you've had. Great tool. Just I don't think it's used enough in BNI, and it really sets you on top of the pyramid of VCP, which we'll get into in a minute.
Yeah, this is a great exercise, John, because I found that even when I'm making a list of my last 10 clients, there are some people that I completely forgot about to mention that really would be a good fit for the person that I'm meeting with. So this is a really good reminder, not just for the person that you're talking to, but for yourself. And by the way, if you don't have this sheet formally, it's okay. Just make a list of your top 10 last clients that you've got, and you're done. It's not a big sheet to fill out, but it is a really great, smart
It's
exercise.
Thanks for that comment, Amy. This is great seeing these things in the chat. Like Amy said, she didn't know it existed. And I'm so glad that we're doing this today. And it's doing this today. It's sort of like I used to teach people, see, back when we did MSP in person. I used to coach them to not just do it one time, come in every other month or quarterly or twice a year. 2 reasons: you sharpen your saw, and the other thing is all those people that are fed into the MSP from in your area, they never come to your chapter. So those are people you never have a chance to meet or do a one-to-one with. I just, before I started teaching MSP, I used to take attendance, and I would love making one-to-ones with the people coming in because it gave them a one-to-one experience, and you just never know what's going to happen.
Absolutely. Every networking opportunity is an opportunity to get to know people and build relationships and get some business done.
Big time. Yes.
All right. So this is a big one. Initiate the one-to-one yourself. Don't wait to be asked for that one-to-one. John, there's one thing, it's a little pet peeve of mine. I'm going to tell you about it. It goes like this. Someone says, hey, everybody, I'm available for one-to-ones.
Mhm.
That is not a very targeted way to meet with the people.
That's like bringing
meet with.
anybody to the meeting. I love when people say, I'm
Mm.
looking for anybody. No, just no, that makes my head explode. You can't ask for anybody. They're not in the room. It doesn't create a visual.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So, it's so important to really target the people that you want to meet. Start with your contact sphere, or the people that you're most likely to really become referrals partners with, and start with them, and then make your way all around the room. And John, you made an excellent point as we were talking earlier, and that was when you're done, you go back and meet with them again a few weeks later.
Thanks. Yeah, I coach people on that. I did that with Daniel yesterday. Gang, keep in mind that one-to-ones are like vitamins, okay? Your body assimilates your vitamins like every 90 days. And so just like vitamins, you have to keep taking those because your body won't do anything with them until 90 days has passed. Same thing with the one-to-one. Like you're going to meet different people between, let's say you have a one-to-one today and you have one 90 days out. So this is July. So October 21st, you need to have, thank you, you need to have another one-to-one with them. And you calendar it before you leave that one-to-one. Say, we're going to meet on the 21st again, because we're both going to meet new people, whether it's at a BNI online or around the world or a chamber. You don't know, but all it takes is one person to be a great referral. So tee up your next one-to-one at that present one, put it in the calendar and set it up. So yeah, just like vitamins, you've got to have more than one one-to-one. It's like going to MSP more than one time. Have another one-to-one with that person.
Yeah. And John, I like your pro tip over here, which says new members who wait to be asked may have a blank BNI Connect tab. You're not going to get those referrals if you're just waiting for stuff to happen.
No, it doesn't. It's not that kind of a planet. It doesn't work that way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. Let's move on to our next one. If I could advance the slide. Oh, no. There we go. Take responsibility for missing.
This is my, you talked about pet peeves.
Yeah, this is yours. Okay.
Oh, yeah, because so if you miss a one-to-one, see, it's BNI's family. If you miss that, I shouldn't have to wait weeks and weeks and weeks for you to email me to reschedule that. Or I had one Wednesday, the second time it happened. I mean, come on. I reached out to this person twice, schedule a one-to-one, and it didn't happen. So that time that one-to-one didn't occur, I blocked that out for you. I am never going to be able to get that hour back. So take responsibility for rescheduling that. It's so important. Yeah, and do it right away. And don't wait weeks or weeks, because that's a referability thing. So I think of referability, Steve, as a totem pole. Okay. And if you do this to me once or twice, okay, you go from the top of that referral totem pole all the way down the bottom or below that. You can't treat people like that. It's family. Just big time.
Yeah, I mean, this is it's no different missing a one-to-one with a member than it is missing a client meeting. It's
you wouldn't do that.
When you have that kind of mentality, that's when
totally,
you change
because
track.
a client buys one, but a referral partner, a member of your chapter, how many can they refer to you? I mean, it's just amazing. So these are all, I know common sense isn't real common, but this is kind of common sense.
Absolutely. All right. Now,
love this.
Do you do what you say you will do? It seems like, of course I do, but do you? Well, I don't know. This is where those of you who took your MSP course may remember the referral confidence curve. And what this is a little diagram of how referrals happen over time. So if you look at the arrow going up is the amount of confidence people have in you, arrow moving to the right is all about the time that passes from your BNI membership. So if you're starting with letter A, that's a brand new member, not a lot of confidence because no one knows you yet, and not a lot of time in the chapter. But if you'll notice, through over time, just showing up for your meeting, showing up for your one-to-ones, doing a CEU here and there, paying attention and engaging in the meetings, all of those things are going to slowly improve your level until you get to the point of B. And point B is the point of trust, where members say, all right, now I know this person, I'm confident in referring to them, I trust them. And then you'll see that that curve goes way up once that happens, because you become referable.
And that's a great point, is where that intersects with the trust. And that's what's huge to me about members of a chapter that are not there. Okay, they burn through, like, 38 years ago when BNI started in 85, you talk about, you can have 3 excused absences in 6 months. I know people that burn that in 2 months. You hardly ever see them in a chapter. FaceTime is huge. If you don't see them, how can you remember them, and how can you refer them and remember what they do and get to know them? If they're not showing up at your weekly meet, they're not showing up every 168 hours, how are they going to be referable?
Right. And so, John, your pro tip here is associate everything you do and say in BNI with how it reflects on you, because that curve just doesn't move in just one direction. Right. There are things that you could do along the way that are going to make people lose confidence in you, and you're kind of moving off of the point of trust if you're not careful.
And that's, I know this is getting ahead of a slide maybe, but this is kind of where I think I call it the strategy and the science of BNI. And I also, it's also how national BNI is. I mean, we've got, you've got your chapter meetings, you've got other chapter meetings, you've got regional meetings, online speed networking, you've got Dawn's Tuesday national speed networking online. All these things come into play because people get to know you. They see your name once or twice. You're going to go, oh, that guy. Yeah. Because you just don't know where that's going to pop into their head. And if you can do business like Steve or somebody talked about vitamins a second ago in the chat. Okay, if you can do vitamins across the country, then you're going to become the vitamin guy in BNI, because they've seen you 2 or 3 times. You just don't know. That's what's cool, is you just don't know what you don't know. And you don't know is that's going to come back to you. And that's why I think everything's associated in BNI, what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree. And it is something that just to keep in mind all the time, to really think about what you're doing and saying and how it's reflecting on the perception of you by the other members.
Yeah. And the other thing is, besides doing things online, is we have global and national conferences. In fact, out on the left coast in California, here we are talking about here, is they have the February is coming up, Steve, with the BNI at Sea, BNI Seminar at Sea, which is a great way to get to meet people and network, is on a cruise, as well as doing national and the global conferences.
Yeah, there's so many different things out there that are outside of your own meeting. There's stuff that's regional, there's stuff that's statewide, and stuff that's national that you can do. And of course, international as well. Yes. I know a lot of people during the pandemic were visiting chapters in other countries. You can still do that, by the way, just ask permission in advance. I make sure it's an online chapter for you to kind of go in and check that out and bring back some good ideas for your own chapter that you saw somewhere else. This is another thing that's going to boost your credibility in the chapter, is by saying, hey, I've got this great idea. Why don't we try it out?
I saw this library, this other chapter in Florida, in Ocala, which has got like 68 members. I saw they had a library. We need to have a library of Dr. Meisner's books. Yeah. And the other thing is, if anybody, you all have my email, you got it at the front, the onholdguy@gmail.com. If anybody wants to do a one-to-one, I love doing one-to-ones anywhere on the planet. And if you're not utilizing the BNI Connects app, oh my gosh, it's amazing. It's just so powerful using that. Yeah. And you get, like Randy says, you get 5 CUs when you read a book. So that doesn't just help you out, it helps your chapter, because your chapter has annual goals for for CEUs, just like it does for everything else. Good point, Randy.
All right. Let's
Thank you, Steve.
yep, let's move on to the next one. All right, power of one. All right, so we all know, or most of us know, that like the goal here is show up for your meeting every week, bring a
Big time.
referral, do a one-to-one, a CEU, and bring one visitor per month. If we all did this, we'd all have enormous chapters, and everyone would be
Monster
making a ton
chapters
of
like they do in Vietnam. I mean, when I remember years ago when Vietnam was opening up, they were having 103 people at the first meeting. Just
Mhm.
amazing stuff. Yeah, so so the one caveat that I like to tell people when I meet with them is, to me, every meeting is Visitors Day. I used to have, Steve, I would Santana Row BNI in San Jose, we were a U shape, and so I would put my business card at a seat. Like if I had 7 visitors coming, I put my business card at like 7 seats to hold that spot. People would say, "What are you doing?" Well, these are for all my visitors coming. The Waller bus. Just you just invite like crazy, and you know, 1 visitor a month is great, but go for 1 a week. Be the star in your chapter. Talk about visibility. If you're constantly bringing people to the family, because you all know that visitors / guests are what? Are customers. Okay, somebody that's coming as a visitor, there's 42 people in your chapter or 30. Somebody that's coming as a visitor is going to need what one of those people has. So help your folks out by bringing guests or visitors, because those are potential customers for everybody else.
Absolutely.
And you know, one-to-one a week is okay, but if you've got a meeting, it's a lunch meeting, sandwich the meeting with your one-to-ones. Have one before at 10:30, have one at 1 o'clock. You don't have to drive anywhere else. You're already there. Take advantage of it.
Yes, absolutely. So important to, especially for newer members, to get to know as many people in your chapter as
You
quickly as
have
possible.
to. That's how you can refer them, and vice versa.
So how you appear at BNI impacts your VCP, and that is visibility, credibility, and profitability. For those of you who are unfamiliar with this model, it's not dissimilar from the referral confidence curve in that this is you getting to build a relationship with an individual in your chapter as kind of a power team, building a reciprocal relationship.
Right.
But when you start out, you want to start of the point of visibility. And visibility is basically, hey, I know who that person is. They're in the chapter. Here's what they do. And, you know, there's a possibility that, you know, we would build a relationship. And then you move on to, if all goes well, to the credibility stage. And that's where people say, all right, here's someone that I believe, based on what I've seen, is someone who is trustworthy and deserving of a referral. And from there, if you're lucky enough, you move on to the profitability stage. And that's when you're doing everything right and you're getting your referrals coming in on a regular basis, and you're giving the referrals as well. This is the important part about profitability. You can't just be the one collecting referrals and say, I'm in profitability. You're really in the profitability stage when both parties are giving and receiving referrals to each other on a regular basis. That's why if you look up the VCP podcast with Dr. Meisner, he says that typically you can only achieve this with 5 or 6 people in your chapter, because it is hard to get to this point. But just like the referral confidence curve, there are things that you can do at the stage of profitability that are going to bump you back into credibility or back into visibility. Right.
There's that arrow, there's an arrow there that you can't see. Okay. And that arrow goes, it's fluid, it goes back and forth. Yeah. And that's a great point, Steve. I was mentioning that to Daniel yesterday. I was having a one-to-one with him, and he's really new to BNI. And you know, he says, well, how do I refer people? And I talked, and I gave him some questions. I said, you really can't focus on more than 5. He's got 41 in his chapter in champions. I said, go for 5. Think about 5 people that are, because like he does tree work. I said, talk, you know, if you're out there talking to them about their trees, are they moving? Okay. Think about maybe the realtor, you give a realtor referral. Just think about 5 people in your chapter. You can't handle all 41 of them. to
Yeah,
give.
and that doesn't mean that you're not going to be able to give and receive referrals to everybody in your chapter.
No.
But to be at that point of profitability where you're working as a power team, yeah,
Mhm.
that is a rare thing. So
Huge.
treat
And then
that like gold.
also the visibility is, think about how you look and appear when you're at your chapter meeting.
That's an
You
important.
represent yourself and your business to those other 40 people. How do
Yep.
you look? How do you represent week in, week out, not just once a month, but you got to look sharp. You represent your industry and your business. If you don't look great, you're not going to get referrals.
Right. Absolutely. All right. Moving on to this important one, using the BNI Connect app to give testimonials. This is a fairly new feature and an
Love that.
important one. So John, why don't you talk about that?
Yeah, I love this. I love having this on the BNI Connect app. I always go out and I'll go through it and I'll look at everybody in my chapter, who can I give a testimonial for? And I love that because it puts you on top of the totem pole. And then something else that Steve had mentioned is you can also give a testimony to somebody online, like on Google or Yelp. So that strengthens how you look when it's like on LinkedIn. If you focus on 2 or 3 people on LinkedIn, a day, giving out testimonials or referrals or testimonials, it's going to bring you up. It's going to make you top of mind with them. So doing this on the BNI Connect app makes you top of mind with the people in your chapter. That's your family. Give them testimonials.
Absolutely. So important to do that. And by the way, it's easy enough. If you're going to do one in the BNI Connect app, just copy it and put it somewhere else, right? Whether it's on a Google review, which is so important for a lot of members, or on their LinkedIn or anywhere, that's going to spread the word about how good they are. So important to do. Whoops, I skipped one. There we are. So we talked about a lot of different things. And by the way, before we get into key takeaways, I really just wanted to say a lot of people, especially if you're a new member, might feel like, wow, this seems like a lot of work and it's kind of overwhelming. It really shouldn't be if it's done in a way that fits your schedule. And remember, this is not you doing BNI stuff and then going to work. This is you doing BNI stuff that is going to help your business. So you're actually marketing yourself while you're doing this kind of work, right?
Yes.
So of all the things that we covered today, these 10 items look like a good top 10. Put into the chat which one you're going to focus on. I'm curious to see what people think they need to do a little bit more of to get a little bit more credibility into their chapters. There's more visitors. That's a good one.
Good, more visitors. Yeah. Every day is Visitors Day, kids. Every meeting you have is Visitors Day. Think about who you can bring, because those people that you bring are going to help your members.
Yeah.
And don't wait for one-on-ones. Very good. Do not wait.
Well, Dan says visitors cure all chapter ills. Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's no downside to bringing people to your meeting.
No.
Right. Top 10 client list. Yeah, that's a great one. Lots of testimonials. So the chat is all fired up now. Excellent. Yeah.
Kelly had a comment, Steve, that she didn't have the testimonials in the BNI Connect. She wasn't able to see that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, so you know what? You have to go into the part that says network. I think it says on the app new by network. You can find that point, and that's where testimonials are. So you have to kind of go to, I think maybe it's the
Wait a
more.
minute. So I just went into you just go into somebody's contact, and then down the bottom, it'll say, ask this person for a testimony or give them one. So you've got to drill down into one person's profile. And once you're in there, they'll see it.
Yep.
You don't have to reload the app, Kelly. It's already in there.
There you go. That's good news. All right. So of these, I think a lot of people were saying be prepared for one-to-ones and doing the gains profile. So important. But I like that people are talking about doing things like showing up on time and doing all that proactive stuff that's going to get you that kind of respect from the members in your chapter. Because when you respect other people's time, that's a big part of it, right?
That's huge. That's more important than a referral, because if you burn people in your family, the referrals are never going to come because people talk.
Right, right. Absolutely. All right. So John, before we wrap up,
Yeah,
any final words of advice that you want to give? I know you gave a lot of pro tips today, but
thanks. Probably just treat this like it's so critical, because this is your business. And I hear from people all the time in BNI that 90 to 95% of their business comes from this. And that's amazing. So take what we talked about today to heart and internalize it. And BNI will just, make you really major successful and give you, 90 to 95% of your business just from this. And if you're not online, get online, whether you can do something nationally or locally, but tear down the walls and open up the box and get out there and talk to other people, not in your chapter. Just, that's my big suggestion is.
all right. Yeah, no, I think that's
walls.
absolutely. And so we've got a couple of questions in Q&A that we can
Great.
jump into right now.
Okay.
Ed's asking, how would you address a member that says he or she doesn't have the time for a one-to-one and has been a member for many years?
I saw that. Really? Wow. I would talk to him, maybe after the meeting and say, what does that really mean? You don't have time for me to get to know you better so I can refer you better? I would probably put in those parentheses, because they're there to get more business by referral. You just tell them, look, I want to set up a time to chat with you so that we can find out how we can help each other and make things better, more mutually beneficial by having a one-to-one with you. It's if you got 30 minutes, or is it easier for you on the phone or on a Zoomer?
Yeah, I think
how is Saturday morning at 10 o'clock?
Yeah, see, that was the point I was going to bring up. Let's say you're a CPA and you're in the middle of tax season, right?
Sure.
I get how you're working pretty much all the time, but maybe you can work do a one-to-one if the other person is willing to meet you on a weekend morning, or maybe after hours or very early before your meeting starts or something like that, just so you can get in that time to talk to them.
Great point. Yeah. So Saturday morning, you're going to have breakfast. You can have a bowl of cereal. Let's do a Zoomer. We'll both have Cheerios at the same time from 10 to 10:30.
Absolutely. Yep. All right. Next question. How is negative visibility addressed amongst members and chapters? Consistently late, unprepared, etc.
Negative visibility.
Yeah. So if people are doing all the wrong things, how is that addressed? Well, I would say typically this is something an issue for the membership committee to get
the mentor
coordinator.
I think Obi-Wan needs to have a chat with them. Yeah.
Yeah. But it is something, by the way, there are some chapters that when someone is up for renewal, they poll the chapter and ask, do you have any feedback? So sometimes this is the time to make a point and say, this is, I had this experience with this member that I wish they would improve.
Right. Because your chapter is only as good as your weakest link, as your weakest member, right?
Yep.
I mean, it's just, and that's why, you have members that are not great for the chapter. They go away and you bring in, you make the core stronger of the chapter.
Yeah.
They've got it. Everybody has to follow the BNI policies and procedures. That's why we have membership committees. And if you blow those things off, it's going to impact the chapter big time. You can't do that.
Ashley's asking, do I have a CRM to send out? Can you expand on that a little bit? We don't have it to send out.
I can do a one-to-one with her.
There you go, Ashley. Get in touch.
See, that's the other thing is like when we do the 10-minute presentations. Okay, I always hear people at the end of it. We used to talk about that at MSP. Okay, does anybody have any questions? You never do that. Okay, because the main reason you don't ask for questions at the end of your 10-minute presentation is because if somebody stumps you on a question, you could have give the best Dr. Meisner presentation on the planet, but one question will leave you hanging out there in the wind. Don't do that. Somebody has a question. Ellen Waller, no relative. That's cool. If somebody has a question, that's a great way to, let's do a one-to-one. We can chat about that. That's perfect. That's what you say when somebody has a question at the end of your 10-minute presentation. So if you have any questions about CRMs, I would love to do a one-to-one, and we can even do a Zoomer, and I can show you Close or Contact Hero on a Zoomer on your, and you can see it on my screen.
All right, let's see. Steve, can you address the G and PG aspect of meetings where you can't invite Ivan? Oh yeah, I've been involved in chapters like that. Some chapters get a little bit more free flowing with what they say, and this can negatively impact a person's decision to join a chapter if they feel like the language, the jokes, things cross a line that shouldn't be crossed. So you may be having a grand old time in your chapter, but you may be losing the opportunity to build your chapter, and people might not renew because they're uncomfortable with what's being said.
And remember, and the people that I've talked to recently in the last couple months is people call it a 1-2-1 because we are in other countries like England, and a one-on-one has a different connotation than a 1-2-1. So that's why we call it a 1-2-1, is so that we won't have any heartburn with members because of that.
Yep. Let's see. How do you encourage participation? I've got a few members who have told me that they will never do X, Y, and Z because they're just too busy. So this is similar to the earlier question.
Yeah. I would take them aside and talk to them, and maybe they're in the wrong spot.
Yeah.
Maybe that chair in that industry, maybe there's a superstar out in the wings, waiting to fill that seat. Yeah, you're right, Randy. Not everybody's a great fit for what we do.
Yeah, I think this kind of speaks to the culture of the chapter.
Yes.
There are some chapters where you go to where everyone is doing everything because that's how it's done in that group, and that's why they're so successful. If you let the standard slip in a chapter, this is what happens, and it's up to you, the president, the vice president, the secretary treasurer, the membership committee, the mentor coordinator, all of those people, education coordinator, to get in there and say, this is how we're doing things moving forward. And if this is not something that you're okay with, then you may not be renewed, right? Because we want everybody to be participating at the highest levels to get the best results from the chapter.
Absolutely. Yes.
Carrie Ann says we had a member that didn't show up for 3 consecutive meetings. Then we were told he was no longer in the chapter, and then he came back a week after that.
Wow.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, when a decision is made, it really needs to be a final decision. Otherwise, you get stuff like this.
Yes.
Right. So you have to be careful with that whenever that happens. And Ashley's asking again about the Meisner library. And John, I don't know if you still have a chapter library in your chapter, or how things are done with reading Dr. Meisner's books.
I'm trying to get a library started because we had one at Santana Row in San Jose, and I loved it because I want to have all, not all of his books, but as many as we can, because that's how you build chapter education units, is by having Dr. Meisner's books out there. And yeah, I think it's a great way to do that. So what are your thoughts on that, Steve? Does the chapter going to have money for the books?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of chapters have a chapter kitty that they've got.
We don't have one.
You don't have one. Wow, you got to work on that. You got 47 people in there. Wouldn't cost very much to do that. If people can put in like $5.
That's a great idea.
Library done, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Oh, all right. Melanie said she wanted to ask if we should be putting in referral slips when we introduce people to their contact spheres.
That's not a referral.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's an concept, but it's not a referral.
Yeah. I mean, I understand it is an introduction of sorts, but I mean, I suppose if someone said to me, I want to meet people in the trades sphere, and you
Uh-huh.
introduce that person to them, that sounds kind of like a referral because it's the beginning of a relationship, but it is a little bit
It's
sketchy.
great. It's
You
kind
know,
of
it's not
monster
quite,
great.
yeah. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend that. Just to be on the safe side, we want to make sure that we're bringing qualified referrals every time. Introductions are great things, and you never know what's going to come of them. So the referral may come eventually.
Right.
Terry says she's a new VP trying to turn the ship around regarding attendance. Just put a member out yesterday. It's hard to buck the we have not done it this way mentality.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a tough one because
That's
you
a question
think that,
for the chapter success coach, Steve.
yeah,
That's why they're there.
also not an easy thing to instantly turn the ship around
No,
to say, all right, we weren't doing this way, so now we're going to put in these hard rules. If for a chapter that's been around for years, you have to kind of ease into it and let
right.
people know that maybe by October 1st, when the new term starts, that's when we're
Mhm.
going to have our rules and stronger. But we need to begin the process of recognizing that you can't just show up whenever you want.
Yeah.
Right. All
Great
right.
point.
Okay, and let's see. Let's see. Kate has a member that's missed 2 one-to-ones and not sure how to handle the situation.
I can
Yeah,
answer that.
go ahead.
Yeah, that happened to me. My second one bailed on me Wednesday, Kate. And I asked my incoming president about this after the meeting, after I got a text from this person, because I had reached out to them both times. And I'm the incoming vice president this next term. And so I asked Vince about it, and he said he wouldn't reach out to this person. I mean, they're 0 for 2. And when it comes to one-to-ones, it's just no.
Mhm.
I've tried twice. I mean, how many times can I get blown off? You know,
Absolutely.
obviously it's not important enough to them. I don't know what happened the first time they were sick. I don't know what happened Wednesday, but if they want to reach out to me, I'll consider it over the phone or a Zoomer. But
Yep.
I'm not going to tie up time in I like to call time from 8 to 6. That's golden time.
Mhm.
I'm
Yep.
not going to tie up golden time with a third one-to-one that could blow out.
Absolutely.
So
Yep. Everybody's time is just as precious as anyone else's.
yes,
So make sure that we're
yes.
respectful of that.
Yeah.
Okay, this was great. We are at the end. I did want to just very quickly mention that next week we've got Sandra Costello. She's a photographer, and she's going to talk about those 5 reasons that bad photos are losing you business. So, it's really more than just needing a headshot these days. So you have multiple photos for different scenarios for your social media, for your website, for really great communication in getting your message out there. So join us for that one. And don't forget to give yourselves a CEU for being on today. John, this was a really great one. It went
Thank you, Steve.
even better than I hoped. You
Me
did an
too.
amazing job. So thanks
Thanks.
for being on today.
You bet. Live long and invite visitors, gang.
There you go. All right. Take care, everybody. We'll see you
Thanks.
next week.
Okay.